Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tar Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality meets with spirituality. And today we have a different guest, and his name is Randy Niederman. And today's show is manifesting your spirit in daily life. So I'm Martha. I'm a clinical sexologist. I have a doctorate in human sexuality. And I just finished my master's in counseling as well, making it my 4th degree. And you can find me at Eros Coaching. That's eroscoaching.com. Today's show, Manifesting Your Spirit in Daily Life, we're going to be discussing how to increase connection with your spirit to cultivate happiness and health. And these are based on techniques drawn from Hinduism and Western psychology. So sexuality will be discussed as a means for connecting with and expressing your spirit in the world. The relationship between sexuality and yoga will be discussed. So a little bit more about my guest, Randy Niederman. He has a PhD and also a master's in social work. He has been teaching social work at the University of Georgia, Western New Mexico University, and Barry University. His PhD dissertation was a research study entitled The Conceptualization of a Model of Spirituality. And his PhD is from the University of Georgia, and his master's in social work is from Florida International University. So he's worked in the capacity of psychiatric social worker at a psychiatric crisis unit and hospital emergency rooms. So Randy is different from a lot of my guests because he's actually been practicing Eastern disciplines for most of his life. So his mother is a yoga teacher, was a yoga teacher, and he's been practicing yoga since childhood. So that makes it a very unique background that he has. He has a 2nd degree black belt in Aikido and has been a long-time practitioner of Tai Chi, Philippine martial arts, and Kendo. He's been affiliated with Zen groups in South Florida and New Mexico. Be sure to check out the website beyourspirit.com. So welcome to the show, Randy.
Thank you. It's good to hear from you, Martha.
Yeah. How's my volume?
It's perfect.
Great, thank you. So the relationship between us started when you approached me to do a book review for your book, Be Your Spirit. And being somebody who's interested in spirituality, I was sufficiently intrigued, especially when the subtitle was A Guide to Health and Happiness based on the Yoga Sutras. And I didn't know what Yoga Sutras was, never heard of it. And so I was very intrigued. And lo and behold, I think it took 1 year before I was able to read your book, was blown away by it, wrote the review, and decided that I must have you for this radio show.
Great. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for approaching me in the first place.
Okay. You're welcome.
So tell us a little bit more. What is Yoga Sutras?
The Yoga Sutras is generally considered the sort of the yoga Bible in that it's not that old, and I'm sorry I can't tell you the exact dates, but maybe I think 300-400 years old, and it was written by a yoga master, Patanjali, to put down, I guess, concisely what's important about yoga and the purposes of yoga and things like that. it's missing. It's not really for the layperson because it already assumes that you know what the major concepts are. So I think in a way it's kind of an advanced guideline. And I discovered, I learned for it for the first time maybe in 2006. And that was a time when I was just finishing writing my first attempt at a self-help book. And it really didn't come out that good. And by the time I was finished with it, I found the Yoga Sutras. And then I thought, everything I want to say is right here in the Yoga Sutras. It's already been done, and it's been done better than I'm going to be able to do it. And so I just ended up focusing on the Yoga Sutras and studying them and interpreting them for myself.
Mm. And your book is based on that.
The book is based on everything that I've been studying in the course of my life towards improving my health and happiness, and kind of honed down to things that I felt were working and that were in tune with the Yoga Sutras and Taoism.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned
I kind
that
of used. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. No, you please.
Go ahead.
I use the Yoga Sutras as a framework or a way to organize these other ideas, which are directed primarily towards how can we increase our health and happiness and find meaning and purpose in our life.
So I remember in your book you mentioned it is a mind, body, spirit program that will help all of us improve our health and happiness.
Yes.
And also that it is a 7-step program.
Right. So it's organized into 7 steps, just like the Yoga Sutras or yoga is organized into 8 limbs, and it's understood that those 8 limbs aren't really, can be steps, but they also can be practiced simultaneously, not necessarily one after another. And the 7 steps I have in the book, I think it's just more or less the same thing, that they don't have to be practiced, one mastered and then moved on to the second one. And the 7 steps do more or less parallel the 8 limbs or aspects, I think, of the 8 limbs of yoga.
Yeah, I remember reading your book, and it's just so dense, full of information, and I was like, whoa, this is something that I have to read slowly and keep coming back to.
It is true that there's not a lot of fluff in there. There's not a lot of stories and going off on little fluffy tangents. It's just the information. It's just the because I come from an academic background. That was sort of my mindset. You don't write to entertain the reader. You write to convey information.
Yeah, it's really. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, probably sell more books by entertaining the reader, but that was my first book, and that was my approach.
So, of course, that begs the question, are you working on your next book now?
I am finishing my first novel, and I hope to have it published in a couple of months. And I kind of gave myself this challenge after writing, a self-help book that's really kind of a unification of psychology, philosophy, and metaphysics, and religion, and that the population or the people that were reading it were really a select small population that it had an appeal to. I gave myself the challenge to turn it upside down and write something that was extreme, that was entertaining, that was directed towards a popular audience, and make it, a novel, a dark kind of novel, not, happy, light spirituality novel, but to weave in spirituality, Buddhist, Hindu teachings within the novel, and anyway, I just finished it, and I'm happy with it.
That's fantastic.
It's fun.
That's great. So what's the title? When will it be out?
The title is The Myth of Love. The Myth of Love.
The Myth of Love.
The Myth of Love, yeah. And I don't know, I hope in a couple of months, I'm still, doing hopefully the last go through with the editor, but we're really, working on small details now, so I hope to get it back from him within a month and maybe publish them, have it published at least digitally on Amazon a month later.
That's great.
It's an action thriller. I try to make it two things because I'm both trying to reach a wide audience of men and women. I try to make it an action thriller and a love story. I want it to work as both.
Sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster already.
Right. Hopefully.
Okay, we have a break. And after the break, we'll come back and talk more with Randy about his first book, Be Your Spirit.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance, Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
And you are listening to Eros Evolution on the OMTimes Radio Network. You can share this show with your friends by going to the link omtimes.com/mobile. With this link, you'll be able to listen to the show without needing to download any app. And today we are talking about manifesting your spirit in daily life with Randy Niederman. And unlike many of my guests who are sex educators or sexologists of some form, Randy has a unique background of being in academia, taught social work, and is now working in the capacity of a psychiatric social worker. However, he's been practicing Eastern disciplines for most of his life, including yoga, and was just explaining about how he came across Yoga Sutras and been devoting his practice around it. Then wrote a book based on everything that he's experienced relating to spirituality in that book. So just before the break, we were talking about how his book is pretty dense, information-full book, which I have read. And I was very impressed by the book and the amount of information, knowledge that was being shared, that I thought it would be so useful to have him on this show to support him in his work, publicizing his book, but also impart more wisdom to listeners out there who, there are people who are not inclined to reading a book. But I strongly recommend his book, by the way. So, Randy, coming back to you, thanks again for coming on the show. Could you just, for the benefit of listeners, share with us just the crux, the gems, some of the things that they can get started with based on your book?
That they can get started with based on the book, on Be a Spirit. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think the first place to start is whether your the depth and strength of your belief system, and being honest with yourself about that. I think there's three very telling questions about spirituality, the way I define spirituality. And one question is whether you believe that you have a personal spirit or something like a soul. And then the other one is whether there's a larger universal spirit, something like a God. And the third dimension to that is that I'd say that there's an afterlife, that the soul lives on past the death of the body. Or actually, the third dimension would be a relationship between the two, between the individual spirit and the larger spirit. So, Be Your Spirit is based on the premise that you have a spirit, and that the goal of life from the spiritual perspective is allowing that spirit to experience itself in the world. It's the spirit, in the sense, in my view, is like a tourist. It was someplace else, and it, for whatever reason, wanted to have an experience as a human being, and chose a particular human form to enter and exist in, and it wants to be in the world. And if we, it's to our advantage to bring our spirit into the world. It makes us healthier, happier, stronger, powerful, and so that's to me that becomes the first question is, do you really believe that? Because if you don't really believe that, then everything else is going to be half-hearted.
Okay, that's very practical to ask and very important question. And I never really thought about it. I mean, I certainly agree with what you shared. I do believe in the personal spirit. I do believe in the universal spirit. I'm not necessarily believing in like dogmatic God. I believe in the universal God. And I do believe that I am in connection with the what you call the larger spirit. So I do believe in all these things, but I'm not sure if I believe it 100%, the way you just described. Like, are you half-hearted about it? I'm not sure if I believe it 100%. So where does someone like me go from there?
So what about just one part about your own spirit? Do you feel do you feel close to 100% that you have a spirit?
Oh yes, I do.
Okay.
I had an out-of-body experience, and I've had a lot of vivid dreaming, and so like lots of deja vu moments. Dream of it, and then happens or manifest something as I dream it. So. I 100% believe in personal spirit.
Okay. so for our purposes with Be Your Spirit, that's really all you know, that's the main part of it. And so if you believe 100% that you have spirit, then it's really just a matter of you know, how much time, energy, and effort, how open you are to bringing your spirit into your life, which really also means, I guess, in a way, is letting your spirit sort of guide the show. So it's a little bit of a stepping aside and trusting, you know, the messages that you get from your spirit and following that. So I guess one place to start is being able to recognize when your spirit's sending you a message and trying to guide you, and trusting it, you know, and just going with that. The tricky part is that people self-delude themselves about what their spirit wants, you know, and you know, you got to be able to be honest about it. So that would be one thing to do.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. So in order to connect with our spirit and let spirit guide the show, a lot of people actually suggest practices like for start meditation. So what would you suggest people start with?
You know, I think meditation's good, and I've meditated on and off a lot in different ways. I would say a place to start, or a place that I've started with, was setting aside a little time randomly or whatever, and consciously making an effort at least once a day to connect with my spirit and like let it embody me, even just for 30 seconds, which is really, you know, with my attention span sometimes, that's it, you know. But the more I did it, the more often I would do it, and the longer it would last. And you really don't have to have that many spiritual experiences. They don't have to be very long to be powerful. So you know, the more I experienced that I felt like, you know, I was being my spirit, the more comfortable I became with it, and the more often I did it, and the better I was able to trust that concept when I felt like I was being guided by that spirit.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of people do feel very intimidated by this whole spirituality journey, and you know, they feel that they're not good enough, they can't focus, they have too many things to do, they'll never get it right. So there's this self-questioning that I had certainly when I was first embarking on my own spiritual journey, and I always felt that I was weird, or I was just not good, because people would share how they meditate and what they saw and how they felt, and I felt nothing. I saw nothing. I felt really discouraged. So it's beautiful what you shared. You just start somewhere, and then you start feeling more comfortable with it, and you do it more often, and you do it longer. That is so powerful to share that.
My pleasure, yeah.
So what else can they continue to do, you know, because you mentioned in your book Yoga Sutras and then yoga, and so how does yoga come into place?
Well, I think that's the whole premise of yoga, is you know, the Yoga Sutra starts with it, quieting the mind, and then the spirit comes forth. So it's a whole process, really, of removing those things that block your spirit from being in the world. And the things that block your spirit from being in the world are several. You can kind of divide them up, I guess, maybe into three things. One thing would be the body. If your body is unhealthy, and if your energy isn't able to move freely through your body because your channels are blocked, then you're going to have problems. And the way to keep your channels open is, of course, through a healthy diet and exercise, and so opening the body channels, calming the mind. The more agitated the mind is, the less the spirit can come through. Posture, in terms of keeping the channels open, is really important. And I guess those are the big ones.
Yeah, the moment you said posture, I straightened. I straightened my posture. Because you sometimes you don't realize, and then you hear someone say that, and light bulb goes on, and then you're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. But yeah, I don't really take too much care of my posture. We get lazy, right? So we sit with like a hunchback.
Well, it's hard to. We have a sitting down, in a chairs most of the day, and it's hard. A lot of these chairs aren't designed to be good for your lower back. So we're just often just kind of killing our back all day long. It's really common, and and then there's people that have jobs where they're lifting heavy things and bending over and killing their back. So it's not surprising that so many people have back problems. But to me, more than it being a back problem, I see it as a spirituality problem or an energetic problem. In that, I want energy to go up through my spine. I don't want it caught stuck. Well, I guess we'll wait till after the break.
Yes.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
What's up? This is Brad and Mike from Lincoln Park for Life Beat, the music industry fights AIDS. Listen up, times are tough and you get a lot of things thrown your way. If you're being pressured to have sex and you're not ready, then say no. If you're having sex, be smart and use protection. Respect yourself and protect yourself.
For more information, call the National AIDS Hotline at 1-800-342-AIDS or log on to www.lifebeat.org.
And welcome back to Arrow's Evolution. This is where we explore the link between sex and spirit. And I promise you we're going to talk about sex very soon. However, I want to ask Randy, because just before break we talked about wanting to move energy out of our spine. Why? Why would we want to do that? I mean, I think I know the answer, but I don't want to assume, and I always learn a lot of things from asking my guests the most simple questions. Mm-hmm. So, Randy, why would we want to move energy up our spine?
So, in my book, Be Your Spirit, there's a chapter on opening your energy centers, and I used a lot of Taoist literature. I used Montauk Chia, I know you're familiar with, and I didn't include anything from yoga because I really didn't know that much about Kundalini yoga, and I didn't want to, I wanted to be finished with the book, and I didn't want to go back and do more research, because I do a lot of research when I write about something. But I decided, I wasn't going to be lazy. It really needed to be there. And so I began to research Kundalini yoga, which took me to Tantra, and reading the Shiva Sutras, which are the Tantra Sutras, and then looking at the first writing on English writing on Kundalini yoga. The Serpent of Power was written in 1900s, 1800s, and looked through that. And then I looked at the sutras the only sutras that mention chakras, and in there was information about the Kundalini. So in the end, I ended up really liking Tantra, and I ended up really seeing it. My own interpretation was just really very simple and mechanical. It's really not that mysterious or complicated. It's very simple. There's Kundalini energy at the base of the spine, and the goal is to raise it up the spine and bring it to the top of the head, and bingo. That's it, and that it's not that complicated, and just do that. And I began to kind of focus, to narrow things down to that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I can to open up my energy centers and cultivate my energy and raise it up my spine to the top of my head.
Okay, but why? Why do we want to do that? Why do we want to move energy up to our spine and then cultivate energy?
I guess I think there's the health benefits. I think, but more so, I think that's essentially a way of bringing spirit into. That's just another way of bringing spirit into the world. That there's like a parallel manifestation, I guess. That as I bring that energy up, it's also leaving my body or changing the fundamental energy pattern of my body, which is my spirit, maybe. I don't know. I don't really think that way, but that there's this parallel. I would say there's a parallel effect of bringing the Kundalini energy up to bringing my spirit into the world.
Beautiful. I'm writing all this down. Because sometimes people ask me things and I don't know the answer, really. I really don't know, and I make it up, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this, but I really wanted to know. I really wanted to know why different people want to bring energy up their spine. Why bother? And you're talking about health benefits. You're talking about bringing spirit into life, spirit into body, parallel manifestations. I think as we work on our vibration and we become of a higher vibration, then we're doing the whole world, a whole humanity a service, because we don't we don't carry baggage or anger or stuff that doesn't serve us to places, and each of us can be a channel of love and light. That's what I believe. True. So it's beautiful what you shared. I really appreciate it. And in your book, you talk about we work on our spirituality and do healthy practices, open up channels and all that. And you talked about the benefits being health and happiness. So I don't want to make assumptions. How do you think all these things would make us happier?
Well, I would say the one part that I would talk about, because most of it's going to be kind of obvious, but I feel like I am the happiest I've ever been in my life since I've written this book. Because when you write a self-help book, I think you really got to follow it. I don't want to be a hypocrite. And as I was writing it, I really only wrote things that I was doing and that were working for me. So I really have been following it for a long time in one way or another, and even more so maybe now. And I am happier, and I feel like the happier part is about the spirit part, that having more of my spirit in me is making me generally happier. And one of the ways it's making me happier is it feel like it guides me and it keeps me out of trouble. I mean, it's not like I'm so cautious. It's just that it helps me navigate through my life and have good, happy experiences. My spirit wants to have happy experiences, and the only way it's going to have them is through me.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So I developed this philosophy, which I actually took from the Bible. In the Bible, it says everything is permissible, not everything is beneficial.
Right.
So we do have the permission to do anything and everything. However, it's not really going to serve us. And this is exactly what you're talking about.
I'd agree with that.
That's great.
So let's talk about sex.
So now let's move. Yes, that's what I was going to say. Let's talk about sex. So how does all these things affect sex? You begin to talk about it with Tantra. So you said Tantra is simple, moving Kundalini energy up the spine. The goal of doing that is simple. I certainly see Tantra as simple. A lot of people make it very complicated, and they charge a lot of money to attend such training. So what do you suggest people can start doing?
Well, I guess what I would say, what I would first want to say about sex, not so much in terms, I don't really think of sex so much in terms of Tantra regarding spirituality, but I think where sex fits in with spirituality is that there's so much spirituality or pseudo-spirituality or religion that's anti-sex. It's almost like an oppressive force, and it really has, had the negative effect of making people pretty crazy, because people want to have sex, and then they're being told, that there's something wrong with sex. And so, as you know, as a sex therapist, it creates a lot of guilt and shame. Is a pretty common thing to see when you talk with people in therapy. And it's so liberating to help someone, or for people to liberate themselves from that belief system that God doesn't like sex, or that sex is inherently sinful or evil or bad. And I think it really helps people to let go of guilt and shame and depression and anxiety if they can be more accepting of their own sexuality.
Beautiful. So how can people get started?
Well, I think it's hard. I mean, if you live in a culture where everyone, their religion has a particular belief, then, you have to you're going against that system if you're going to try to let go of that belief system. So, I think it's a little bit of a struggle depending on, what society you're in and how immersed you are in the values of that society. I think one way is, a cognitive way, real changing what you believe and how you think about things. If you truly believe God doesn't like sex, then there's really no way around that. I don't think.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of change.
So I think what you mentioned, I think what you're mentioning here is the awareness and then the conscious working on your belief system so as to support the new belief system that you want to have.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'd go with that.
You can disagree.
No, I'd go with that.
Okay.
And I guess, it just, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, please. I really didn't have anything.
Oh, yeah, neither did I.
Oh, okay. Can I tell a story that I think was a transitional point for me regarding sexuality?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I was in a master's program for social work at Florida International University, and I was doing an internship at a unit that does the work that I'm still doing today, really, which is emergency psychiatric social work. It was a mobile team, and right now I work in an emergency room. But there was a number of students there, and it was supposed to be a learning experience, and we had little workshops on occasion. And one day we did this workshop where one of the therapists there led the workshop, and there was like 8 of us, sat at a long table, put newspapers on the table. We all had a ball of clay, and the leader of the workshop said, "All right, I want you all to make a penis out of that clay." And she kind of braced us for that a little bit, explained why we were doing this, and I can't really remember what her stated reason for doing it was. But it was to increase self-awareness, no doubt. So one of the students said, "I just can't do that," a female Christian student. She said, "I just can't do that," and she refused, and the leader pushed her. But the student refused, and she was excused. And then the rest of us took a few minutes and made a penis out of this clay. And then we went around the room and talked about it, and then it was interesting to see what other people made, because psychologically it's kind of revealing in a way. What could be more psychoanalytical than to ask a person to make a clay penis and then kind of analyze it. So that was kind of interesting, going around the room. And then then she said, "Make a vagina." And then we all made vaginas and went around the room and talked about it. And after that experience, it was so over the top that I just felt so much more comfortable talking about sexuality and with clients, asking them questions. Because if we don't ask them these questions, they're not going to give us answers. You got to ask the right questions, and if you don't ask questions about sex, you're not going to learn about that at all.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. So, after this break, we'll come back.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Susan Schuler.
And I'm Lori Walker.
And we are
the Psychic Angel Channelers
from Angel Talk Tuesday.
Tune in every week at 10 a.m. Eastern on OMTimesRadio.com.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Bathe in the beautiful vibrational frequency to help you heal, expand, and remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
And welcome to the last 15 minutes of today's show. And so far on today's show, really enjoyed having Randy Niederman. He's the author of Be Your Spirit. And today we've talked about, his first book, talked about his second book that he's working on, which is a novel. And we talked about the ways in which to define spirituality. And we moved on to also talk about how we can work on our energy and moving energy up our spine, why we want to do that, what makes us happy, and the importance of connecting with our sexuality. And is there anything else that you haven't mentioned? How about breathing, martial arts, all the other stuff that you do, Randy?
I do martial arts. I had a Filipino martial art class today, and I also practice kendo, which is sort of a martial art. It's debatable whether it's a sport or a martial art. Breathing plays an important role in martial arts. Today, I can tell you, today I was trying to practice a breathing principle. My teacher had me wrestling with this guy. And he said, don't worry about winning, don't worry about losing. Just try to control your breath and move around. And that was and that's what I did. There's a tendency to try to fight and get all at it, and your breath gets strong and fast, and you really waste a lot of energy very quickly. And so being able to control your breath, it saves your energy, and it keeps your mind clear, and it keeps your emotions steady, which is useful, in martial arts and of course in life.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's all linked to what you were talking about, which is energy, which is also related to health and being connected to your body, connected to spirit. So that's really important. So in your own words, could you also talk about what you see is the link between sex and spirit? I know you talked about your spiritual,
right.
then sexual practice of Tantra. Mm-hmm. You talked about the importance of being comfortable with our sexuality. But I'd like to hear in your own words what you see is the link between sex and spirit.
Well, it's intuitive. I can't say my understanding of the relationship between sex and spirit is linked with any literature, really. But it seems like sexuality is a very powerful energy, and spirituality is a powerful energy, and that I guess for me, the way sexuality and spirituality can come together is during sex, or even in just caressing. There's a loss of boundaries, a merging with another person and with really, the rest of the world in a sense. There's a focus on a single-pointed concentration of the contact between me and the other person, whether it's fingertips or a gaze or a kiss. Sexuality can really bring a person, I think, into the immediate present moment, at the same time sort of losing their sense of boundaries between themselves and the rest of the world. I guess it can be create a mystical, that I think that is almost a definition of a mystical experience where you merge with the universe.
Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for making that effort to define it for me. Everybody has a different definition, and I'd much rather have one that is very personal to you than someone that's than a definition that's very academic, which is not what I'm looking for. Thank you so much for that.
Sure. Well, thanks for making me comfortable enough to talk about these things. It's they're very easy to talk to. I'm sure that's why you make a good therapist.
I try. I hope so. I think part of making people comfortable with you is first be comfortable with yourself. And I've done so much inner work and healing, and just really am open to whatever people have to say. I trust that whatever they say is not going to hurt me, and so I'm completely open with them. And I certainly get that feeling about you from you as well, which I really appreciate.
Oh, sounds good.
So tell us your offer. You have an offer of allowing listeners to be able to sample your chapters.
So on my website, beyourspirit.com, I think I have one or two chapters in its entirety on the website, and then I have all the other chapters sort of summarized, condensedly. I've started a podcast on YouTube that they're like 10 minutes readings in sequence of the book. I'm like halfway through the book. And some of those are linked on my website on a podcast page. So, but I'm like halfway through that. It's a lot of work making those podcasts for me, reading, and not making mistakes and trying to make it sound good. So I'm only halfway through now. I'm kind of busy with the novel, but I plan to finish it and then release an audio book. But otherwise, I'm really focused on this novel, and I'm not really have much plans around doing workshops or lectures or anything regarding the Be Your Spirit book. It's not that I don't want to. It's just that I only have so much energy, and I'm feeling more pulled towards the novel, and writing a screenplay based on the novel, which is something I've already started. So that would be the next step after I publish a novel. I'm going to finish a screenplay, and this whole thing is really also kind of being driven by my sense of spirit, in that I really I don't really want to make a lot of money. I don't really care about being famous. It's just I'm having fun, and I'm going to just keep doing what's fun for now.
That's great. Yeah, being led by your spirit is so important. There's so much noise, and so many people, just, I don't know what are their true intentions, like being famous for the sake of being famous, and not really giving real value to people. And I think it's really important to be really authentic to who you are and what you are really doing it for. And I think it's really important, this path that you're doing. So I'm just going to do a shout out based on the closing information that you gave me. So for listeners, you can get the sample chapters by going to Randy's website. That's beaspirit.com, and also that's where you can connect with him. So this includes, like he mentioned, YouTube and additional resources for those interested in the spiritual path. Also on his website, Randy has articles of his PhD research on the conceptualization of a model of spirituality. And his book, Be Your Spirit, A Guide to Happiness and Self-Realization, is available on Amazon. And you can connect with him through his website and also his Facebook page, and that's Be Your Spirit. So, yeah. So thanks once again for coming on today's show. I truly appreciate it. It's really been a pleasure. I've learned a lot from you. I always learn something from different people, and you just never know what. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Martha. It's really been delightful.
Yeah. And in time to come, hopefully you'll come back and tell us more about your new book and also your screenplay. That would be really cool to have you back.
Great. I love it.
Yeah. So now I'm going to just introduce a little bit about next week's show. We're going to be exploring a planet orgasm with Annie Sprinkle. And Annie Sprinkle is somebody who's very famous. She's the first porn star to earn a PhD in the US and has taught hundreds of sex workshops. So fingers crossed, she'll be on next week. And stay tuned to Arrow's Evolution. In the meantime, have a great week ahead. And connect with your spirit and definitely connect with your sexuality. Goodbye.